Hi, everybody. Jeff Gadick here from Leisure Group Travel, and I'm happy to have with me today Grace Pinzino from St. Joseph, Missouri. Grace, how you doing today?
Doing exceptionally well, thank you. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Well, I thought we were meeting at the schoolhouse. What happened with that? I'm here in the back like I was back when I was a youngster, putting gum at the bottom of the desk. So, what are we looking at in the background?
For me, I took the horse and went west with the Pony Express. I spent a lot of time in school, so I decided to bolt on the horse.
Nice, nice. And I'm at a local schoolhouse. What's in the background here?
For you, you're studying at the Pony School that's on the property of the Pony Express National Museum. It's a one-room schoolhouse, and they have a school marm that can take you in for a little tour and a little lesson, like what would be when you were in that time frame.
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, I'm super excited about today's virtual site inspection. In researching this and working with you guys on the pre-program, I found just a fascinating history and attractions and museums that rival a destination that's much bigger than what your footprint is there. So be eager to go through that with you. So without any further ado, I will put an extra piece of wood on the fire. There we go. And we'll go ahead and kick off today's presentation.
Perfect.
All right, so the title of today's presentation, Finding Great Memories in St. Joseph, Missouri, I think that's really a good backdrop for what we're going to be talking about over the next 20 minutes or so. This is a beautiful photo here. Again, tell me a little bit about what we're looking at specifically in this photo slide.
So what you're looking at here is within the Patey House Museum. It's one of our most beloved treasured jewels here in St. Joseph. It is a train from the 1860s, and it's pretty much right in the middle of the museum. The museum itself is about 3 stories of everything that you can imagine from that time period. Within the Patey House Museum, as you can see, the train from the 1860s, there's a hand-carved wooden carousel that you can take a ride on for $1. They have a buffalo saloon within the museum. They have a ballroom. They have what's one of my most favorite things. It's called a walk down Main Street. And so basically it's a faux Victorian Main Street that has kind of the facades of like the dentist's office, the blacksmith, the pharmacist. They even have a small little part where you can walk into like in a mansion and see what would be the bedroom and the bathroom and the formal sitting room. So really special place.
Love it. Yeah, great way to preserve history. So, we introduced you earlier. Talk a little bit about your role at the St. Joseph Visitors Bureau, what you folks do over there, and just some of your background.
Well, I am the group sales and services manager, and I love my position. I'm so eager to really get into this new year and just welcome groups. Obviously last year, which was my first year in the position, I didn't get to do that very much. So I have a lot of pent up excitement and enthusiasm and energy to share with groups all of what St. Joseph has to offer.
Awesome.
And I can help create itineraries. We do meet motor coaches that are overnighting, and we, or myself most generally, would bring out a goodie bag that had visitor's guide, little tchotchke, and our beloved cherry mash that's been locally made by Chase Candy for over 100 years.
Okay, cool. Well, that's certainly a good way to welcome folks into town. I think as we kick this off here, geographically, St. Joseph in that northwestern corner of Missouri, talk about, where you see groups coming from historically. We're looking up here on the screen. You guys are just about an hour from Kansas City, a couple hours from Omaha, 4 hours from St. Louis, Branson, which we know to be a popular group destination. Might be a good chance to sort of combine itineraries, but where are you seeing a lot of your traffic coming from?
We actually see a lot of traffic coming from all those destinations. We're pretty geographically located in the center of a lot of metropolitan areas. Right there on I-29, as you said, just about an hour north of Kansas City. It's pretty much only about a 35-minute drive straight up I-29 from the Kansas City International Airport. So super convenient. Again, you said just a couple of hours south of Omaha, which again, just right up I-29, easy drive up in that direction, across I-70 over to St. Louis, which I just did this past week myself. Super easy to get to. Branson, a little bit further away, but well worth the visit. And then one thing I want to note too, is we get a lot of visitors that come across that Highway 36, which is from St. Joseph to the east to Hannibal, is one of my favorites drives. Again, I just did that route this past week as well. Gentle rolling hills and a lot of history along that particular highway. We call it the Way of American Genius.
Gotcha.
Mark Twain and Hannibal.
Yeah, I think Hannibal, certainly you can tie in a lot of history there. Not too far from Des Moines either. And I think, one thing to note, for those that aren't super familiar with Missouri, is just the tallness of the state. Some people think of it just, being wide, which of course it is, from Kansas City to St. Louis, tip to tip. But from north to south, as you can see, Branson being on the sort of the southern tip and you guys in the north. So certainly in sort of in the middle of it all, and on the way to or from a lot of popular destinations, so a lot of chances to build itineraries that include St. Joseph and maybe another stop or two as well. As I mentioned at the onset of this, I was really fascinated by the history of St. Joseph as I dug in a little bit deeper here. Can you talk about, I guess it started with the Pony Express. Is that the sort of the claim to fame of the local area?
Well, we have a slogan, and it is where the Pony Express began and Jesse James ended.
Okay.
And, it works and it's memorable, so we use that. And interestingly enough, the Pony Express began on April 3rd, and Jesse James was killed on April 3rd. There was about a 20+ year difference, but both of those happened on April 3rd. So we do kind of use that slogan. But St. Joseph was actually founded by Joseph Rubidoux, who was a fur trader. And so there in that bottom left picture is Rubidoux Row, which is the row houses that he built. Joseph Rubidoux, again, our founding father, built to house a lot of the people who needed a home while they were getting their wagons outfitted to go west.
Oh, okay. Now the Pony Express, that was the mail carrying route out to the west. For those that are unfamiliar with the history, was there a specific reason that why St. Joseph was chosen strategically? Was it just kind of along the way, or what? How did it kind of start there?
Well, there were several things from my understanding. Maybe I should go back and be in school where you are to know all of the details. But from what I understand, the train ended in St. Joseph, the telegraph, and we were basically the last stopping point before going really into the uncharted West.
Gotcha. And at that point, a lot of it was, as you said, uncharted. So, okay.
Right, we're right on the Missouri River. So we were kind of the last jumping off point before people ferried across the river. And then it really did, become very unpopulated and.
Sure. Okay. So you mentioned not only the Pony Express, but Jesse James. So, what sort of history, memorabilia would one find about Jesse James in the town?
So on the same property as the Patey House Museum, which I mentioned earlier, that has that train within it and all those other wonderful things, is the Jesse James home. It was actually on a different side. It's been moved a couple of times, but Currently, it is on the same property as the Patey House Museum, so which I love that because I know for group planners, that's always important to have multiple attractions, you know, with one stop. It's super convenient. So his home is there. It's where he was shot and killed. It's usually in combination with the same admission as Patey House. And you can just go in. It's obviously a small home, but you can go in and see where the bullet hole is. And there's a sign that supposedly he, you know, had turned his back to fix this sign on the wall. And so and then he was in front of the door. So he had taken off his guns because he didn't want people to see him in front of the door, you know, anybody passing by armed. And then that's when he was shot and killed.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay. Well, obviously the lore around him and the many movies that have been built around his life and legacy certainly should give people some photo opportunities while they're in
It's
town.
it's really interesting because from what I understand, we get people in here from all around the world that claim that they're some descendant of Jesse James. So, you know, there's quite a fascination surrounding him.
Cool, cool. Can you talk a little bit about the St. Joseph Museum?
Sure. So the St. Joseph Museum is another great museum that we have here. What's wonderful about it is there is a combination of museums within that. So the St. Joseph Museum has the Harry L. George collection, which is one of the largest collections of Native American artifacts,
Okay.
and only a small portion are on display. Just they have so many archives, but only a small portion are on display, but they're beautiful. And the St. Joseph Museum is always having different exhibits, but it's on this, it's pretty much what's interesting about that is there's the St. Joseph Museum, there's the Black Archives Museum, the Doll Museum, and the Glore Psychiatric Museum that are all one admission and they're all in one location.
Oh, nice, nice.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
so again, for group planners, one stop and multiple attractions.
Yeah, opportunities. Yeah, and that was the other one I wanted to ask you about as a psychiatric museum. It seemed like, really the history and some of it probably pretty dark as far as how, we used to treat those with mental
Right.
illness. So I'm just curious, like, how that ended up there or how that started there. I guess there was an asylum at one point in time.
It is within what would have been during its time the State Lunatic Asylum #2 here in St. Joseph Museum. So it is on that property within one of the buildings. And it goes over the history of mental illness. A lot of it is a bit brutal and a little bit dark. But at the time they were doing the best they could with what the knowledge they had, or they thought they were doing.
True.
It's not for everybody, but for those who go, they find it fascinating. A lot of people are interested in it. But what I love, again, going back to, it's multiple attractions. So if it's not your cup of tea and you are with somebody who is enjoying it or wants to go visit the Glore, you can go and look at the Native American exhibits.
Yeah.
So that is very nice.
What I like about that is, we're increasingly trying to add variety into programs, and not everything fits your customers to a T. So they can pick and choose, giving them options. It's all going to add to probably a happier tour participant. I would imagine that the Psychiatric Museum, has made a lot of quirkies and unusual lists through the years as well.
They have, they have a whole list of awards and accolades because it is an important part of history, and not all history, of course, as we know, is pretty.
True.
But it is important, and I'm sure they made lots of strides, but there are some exhibits that give pause and really can be moving.
Okay. Well, certainly good to know, and it's an option. I wanted to transition for a bit here. Great selection of museums. Again, for a town the size, especially. Let's talk about some of the art and architecture that can be found in St. Joseph. Wanted to start with the Albrecht Kemper Museum of Art.
It is within an old historic mansion, and they have built on to house the extension, the galleries extension. But it's a beautiful museum, very well done, and it has some really notable artists within it. Um, they have in the past had a lovely area that was a cafe, and lunch could be served. They do have a new director right now, so I think that he's really ambitious and hopefully going to get that cafe back in the works. They have just a really beautiful space, and it's very well done. And again, the grounds are pretty, and it's within an old mansion, so that always gives a feel of grandeur.
Absolutely. Now, the photo here, that's probably that's of an extension, or is that actually the original building?
That is actually on the backside, so that's the extension.
Oh, gotcha, gotcha. Okay.
Mhm.
What other art and architecture do you brag about for visitors coming through?
We have a lot of beautiful architecture because, again, we were one of the last jumping off points for those going west, and they outfitted their wagons and such to make that journey. A lot of wealth was accumulated here in St. Joseph in the late 1800s and early 1900s. And so we do have a lot of beautiful architecture. Um, we have a few bed and breakfasts that are absolutely stunning. So, obviously not necessarily on here for the groups, but if people were to come and stay, we have some absolutely mind-blowingly beautiful bed and breakfasts,
Cool.
and just the architecture we do offer. Um, we have a step-on guide that can be reserved to take people around on a driving tour and some of that architecture scene.
Okay. Now, I guess art from a different level from the media. Certainly, nobody honed their craft better than Walter Cronkite. Again, just another really cool find. I didn't know that he was born there, and it looks like a pretty interesting museum that you've got, or memorial at least dedicated to him.
I just love to speak on that. It is a memorial to Walter Cronkite. It's out at our university. And it doesn't just speak to his life, but also a lot of the major milestone historical events that he reported on, like the moon landing, the Beatles invasion, JFK's assassination. And I know so often that groups of a certain age, um, when they go there, they're just moved because they remember Walter every night on the TV within their home, you know, as the most trusted man in America to give, you know,
Kind of
the
tell it,
news.
yeah, tell it like it was, right? So very well trusted. Definitely a different day and age, and I think regardless of your age currently, just to appreciate that period of time is how he was associated with these major worldwide and national events. So
And again, those events that people so memorable, and were so important in history, and those moments where you knew where you were when you heard the news about JFK, or you were watching, the moon landing. So I think that is a really special place because it evokes those memories, and people always come away really having had a good experience because they're reliving through their memories.
yeah, yeah, you have a very good point. So transitioning a bit here and just looking again on the screen, this Remington Nature Center just looks beautiful. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. The Remington Nature Center is just really wonderful. It's basically where nature and history collide. They talk about kind of the landscape and the topography of Northwest Missouri, and there's artifacts, Native American artifacts. There's a replica woolly mammoth. They have a 7,000-gallon fish tank, and they have fish feeding frenzy Friday where you can go and feed the fish. And it's right down on the Missouri River, which like I said, is our border. And there's a walking path there. Um, our riverfront is not overly developed, but there is a nice walking path there. And just around you is nature. So
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, look very, very pretty. So look forward to getting more information on that and incorporating it. Seems like a great place to spend the afternoon. Um, again, just continuing along my impressiveness of looking at some of the backdrop photos, just the quaintness of downtown. I see that one photo looks like your visitor center is kind of smack dab in the middle of downtown, or
that's where I am currently, right in that building.
wave hi to everybody.
And you can see my backdrop is there with right there in the center, the Pony Express monument there in that green.
So what would you describe as the vibe of downtown St. Joseph?
Easy and fun and just really pleasant. We have a lot of different unique boutique shops in downtown. They're really trying to revitalize our downtown and they're doing a great job. We have several coffee shops. We have a vintage store. Again, some different boutiques, some different home stores. There's a great place to get popcorn and the hand-rolled ice cream. They just opened up a cupcake shop downtown, which I've already sampled. And, that's the good thing about this job is I need to know, I need to be in the know. So,
Yeah, absolutely. You gotta be first in line. Make sure it's good.
and it is good.
Good. Yeah, I saw not on the screen here, unfortunately, but you guys have got some murals as well, different building facades. So is that relatively new, or have those been building over a period of time?
They've been building over a period of time. A gentleman out of Virginia named Sam Welty has come multiple times. I think there's 6 murals downtown and then one right next to the Pony Express Museum.
Okay.
And one of his murals, they're all outside. We actually do have one of his murals inside our office. But one of his outside murals extends across about 6 different buildings. So massive in scale, and they all have a theme, and a lot of them are Western themes, but really beautiful, super special. We also have the sculpture walk that when I talk about the murals, I always combine that because we have multiple sculptures around the downtown area that are just fun and whimsical. And we have a map that you can see each one. And then one is picked by the city and purchased for permanent display.
Oh, cool, cool. Kind of moving through here, I know that so many groups are looking forward to the return of live theater. Can you talk about a couple of the performance venues in town?
Absolutely. So a couple of those pictures, the one with the cars in front is the outside of what we refer to as the Missouri Theater. And we're just so glad that the city of St. Joseph purchased that and has maintained it beautifully. It just got a little love and facelift on the outside, and on the interior, as you can see in the other photo. It was a 1927 Paramount movie palace, and they just don't have very many of those left in the United States anymore. So we feel so special that we do have that beautiful theater. And I honestly, every time I go in there, I become very moved.
Yeah, yeah, it looks fascinating. I love those old historic movie palaces. And I guess really on the other end of the spectrum, you've got a new complex, which is the Ruby Theater.
Yeah, the Ruby Theater, and they do performances, and they've just recently moved to a new building, I guess, as of last year, and it's a dinner theater. And they have a wonderful caterer that they use, and you get your meal beforehand, and then you go up into the theater, and it's a beautiful space as well. So we have 2 really beautiful theaters that have live performances and really quality performances, and super inexpensive compared to a lot of bigger city.
Sure, sure. That's definitely one of the appeals. You mentioned dinner along with theater, which kind of brings me to the next subject is, some of the group-friendly dining establishments in town. I would guess you got a little bit of a local flavor there. So maybe a few of your favorites or those that groups have frequented in the past.
Well, we love Lots of places, but ones that we frequent pretty often. The Frederick Inn is a local favorite and group friendly as well. They do a lot of daily specials and just kind of the good, meatloaf and mashed potatoes and rolls and the cinnamon rolls and the salad bar and they have the pie and cobbler and stuff like that. So just really good Midwestern stick to your ribs kind of fare.
Okay, I hope everybody ate lunch already because that's making me hungry.
I know several from the office ordered lunch from there today. I think it was the special was turkey and dressing.
Okay, what else?
We have a wonderful Cajun restaurant called Boudreaux's. Don't ask me to spell it. And the menu is super extensive, and it's within a historic old warehouse. So J.C. Wyatt House, I know that the trend was talking about some of the smaller motor coaches maybe coming through. So J.C. Wyatt House is perfect if you do have a little bit of a smaller group. I think they cap out at around 30 or 35. But it's absolutely a very special dining experience. It's in a private home that the downstairs is the dining room, and it's a home from the 1890s, I believe, a historic mansion. And the gentlemen who run it are just wonderful. They have great stories. The chef is from New York, and they have a great story as to why they came to St. Joseph, Missouri, and opened this fine dining experience.
Fun.
And for the holidays, often it's decorated beautifully. For Halloween, they go all out. So it's just a really special place. Again, it's more of a dining experience.
Good. And I would imagine being not too far from Kansas City, you got to have some good barbecue there.
We have bandanas, which I know is very group friendly. A lot of people go there. I love it. Their potato salad and baked beans, you just can't get much better than that unless you're going to like a home styled, your own backyard family picnic or family reunion. And they have a really wonderful back room for groups.
Okay, cool. So that gave us a real good overview of some of the things to see and do while you're in town. I would imagine you guys have got some sample itineraries, or would provide some assistance to folks if they were going to put together an itinerary that would include St. Joseph. Would they reach directly out to you? And if so, how would they do that? What's your recommended way of contact?
Sure, just either call me, that number 816-233-6688, or my email address is there as well. You can go to our webpage, stjomo.com. It's a wonderful, beautiful webpage. We have a calendar of events that our PR and communications person tries to keep up to date. We have lots of annual events that are listed. So that's a great way just to kind of get a little preview of St. Joseph beyond this. And again, I would be glad. Like I said, I'm very enthusiastic. I love my hometown. It is worth seeing. It's beautiful. It has charm. It's centrally located. You can get from one end of town to the other in like 15 minutes. So there's not traffic to contend with. Our prices for our attractions are very, very nominal. And again, you get exceptional quality.
Well, that'll conclude the PowerPoint portion of our presentation today. Why don't we open it up back to Dave and see what type of questions folks have about how they could bring their groups to St. Joseph.